Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devim sarasvatim vyasam tato jayamudirayat. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is a very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances to the personality of Godhead Narayan, and to Narayan, which is the supermost human being, and to Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto the author Srila Vyasadeva. Today we are reading from the third canto, entitled The Status Quo, and we are continuing our video talks with Maitreya, which is chapter 5, and we are on text 41. Would you give me the glasses? I forgot. Thank you. So we are at text 3541. Can do one Sanskrit word at a time. Marganti, Yat, Te, Mukhapadma, Nidai, Chanda, Suparnai, Ishaya, Vivikte, Yasya, Agamarsha Uda, Sarit, Varaya, Padam, Tirtapada, Papana, Argantiyat Te Mukhapadmanidais. Chanda Suparne Vishayo Vivikte. Yasya Gamashoda Sarit Varaya. Padam Tirtapada Papana. Margantiyate Mukha Padmanidais. Chanda Suparne Vishayo Vivikte. Yasya Gamashoda Sarit Varaya. Padam Tirtapadam Prapanaha. Margantiyate Mukha Padmanidais. Chanda Suparne Vishayo Vivikte. Yasya Gamashoda Sarit Varaya. Padam Tirtapadam Prapana. Margantiyate Mukhapadmanidais.
Ishayo Vivikte
Shanda Subhane Rishayo Vivikte
Yasyagamarshoda Saritvaraya
Yashagama Shoda Sarit Vahaya Padam Padam Tirtha Padam Padam
Margantiyate Mukha Padmani Jais
Margantiyate Mukha Padmani Jais
Chanda Subarner Vishayo Vivikte
Chanda Subhane Rishayo Vivikte
Yasyagamarshoda Sari Varaya
Yashagama Shoda Sarit Vahaya
Padam Padam Tirtha Padapapana
Padam Padam Tirtha Padapapana. Someone online would like to chant? Okay, so we can do one Sanskrit word and translation at a time. Marganti, searching after, yat, as, te, your, Mukha Padma, lotus-like face, Nidai, by those who have taken shelter of such a lotus flower, Chanda, Vedic hymns, Supaner, by the wings, Vishaya, the sages, Vivikte, in clear mind, Yasya, whose, Agamarsha Uda, that which offers freedom from all reactions to sin.
That which offers freedom from all reactions to sin.
Sari,
Rivers,
Varaya, in the best, Padam Padam, in every step, Tirthapada, one whose lotus feet are as good as a place of pilgrimage.
One whose lotus feet are as good as a place of pilgrimage.
Papana, taking shelter. Translation. The lotus feet of the Lord are by themselves the shelter of all places of pilgrimage. The great clear-minded sages, carried by the wings of the Vedas, always search after the nest of your lotus-like face. Some of them surrender to your lotus feet at every step by taking shelter of the best of rivers, the Ganges, which can deliver one from all sinful reactions. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. The Paramahamsas are compared to royal swans who make their nest on the petals of the lotus flower. The Lord's transcendental bodily parts are always compared to the lotus flower, because in the material world, the lotus flower is the last word in beauty. The most beautiful thing in the world is the Veda or Bhagavad Gita, because therein knowledge is imparted by the personality of Godhead Himself. The Paramahamsa makes his nest in the lotus-like face of the Lord and always seeks shelter at his lotus feet, which are reached by the wings of Vedic wisdom. Since the Lord is the original source of all emanations, intelligent person, enlightened by Vedic knowledge, seeks the shelter of the Lord, just as birds who leave the nest again search out the nest to take complete rest. All Vedic knowledge is made for understanding the Supreme Lord, as stated by the Lord in Bhagavad Gita 15:15. Vitaischa serveraham eva vedya. Intelligent persons who are like swans take shelter of the Lord by all means and do not hover on the mental plane by fruitlessly speculating on different philosophies. The Lord is so kind that he has spread the river Ganges throughout the universe so that by taking baths in the holy river, everyone can get release from the reaction of sin, which occur at every step. There are many rivers in the world which are able to evoke one's sense of God consciousness simply by one's bathing in them, and the river Ganges is a chief among them. In India, there are 5 sacred rivers, but the Ganges is the most sacred. The river Ganges and Bhagavad Gita are chief sources of transcendental happiness for mankind. An intelligent person can take shelter of them to go back home, back to Godhead. Even Sripad Shankaracharya recommends that a little knowledge in Bhagavad Gita and the drinking of a little quantity of Ganges water can save one from the punishment of Yamaharaj. Om Jnana Timirandasya Dhyana Jala Shalakaya Chakshu Unmilitan Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Shtapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Upa Kadamayam Datasti Swapadam Tikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavam Sha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Ragunatam Pitamtam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saita Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitam Cha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagat Pate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Vacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamini Tinamine Namaste Sarasvate Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nirvesesha Shunyavadi Paschyacha Dejatarine Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Mukam Koyoti Vanshalam Vangum Langayate Girim Yakripatamaham Bande Shigu Dejatarinam. We are reading from the 3rd canto, chapter 5, entitled Viduras Talk with Maitreya. We are on text 41, that read, The lotus feet of the Lord are by themselves the shelter of all places of pilgrimage. The great clear-minded sages, carried by the wings of the Veda, are always search after the nest of the lotus-like faces. Some of them surrender to your lotus feet at every step by taking shelter of the best river, the Ganges, which can deliver one from all sinful reactions. Hare Krishna. So much poetry. It's like the many verses in the Srimad Bhagavatam, many verses spoken by sages or demigods, yes, demigods speaking, like it says that a pure devotee is kavi, is naturally kavi, is naturally a poet. So many qualities come with being a pure devotee of the Lord, 26 in all, so many qualities. And one of them is kavi, like the ability to say things in such a poetic way. And the analogy here is about the lotus flower. The lotus flower, there is so much about the lotus flower. It grows in the mud, but it comes out of the mud and it's not in the water, it's above the water. So there's so many analogy made with lotus flower. So I didn't prepare for today's class. We'll see where we are going to go. And first we want to remember that the devas, the demigods are speaking because they have been given a job. They have been given a job they're in charge of the growth element. And they have been given a job. And instead of running to their job, they say, we're not capable of doing that job. So that's a lot of goodness. Shuddha Sattva. It's like, I'm not capable. I cannot do anything without the mercy of the Lord. In fact, at every step in creation, there is an infusion of the mercy of the Lord. There is an infusion of the action of the Lord. There is an infusion. Without the Lord, everything is inert. Nothing moves. So the demigods, because they are the devotees of the Lord, as soon as they are given their job, okay, you need to do this thing or this thing, then they say, okay, let us pray. Let us pray. And when a devotee prays, it doesn't go directly, give me my bread. That's not where the devotee goes. It doesn't first go. First, he glorified the Lord. Glorified the Lord, glorified the creation, glorified the form of the Lord, the name of the Lord, the activities of the Lord. So the devotee starts, that's how he starts his prayer. It doesn't go directly like, give me what I need. He feels expression, he manifests the expression of his love for the Lord, isn't it? Like, when my daughter was little, sometimes I was like, she was praising me, and I was thinking, what is she going to ask? It's not like that, though. It's not about manipulation. It's about a real expression of love. When the devotee approaches the Lord, he's so happy to glorify the Lord, to start with the glorification of the Lord. In fact, the devotee will be satisfied with only glorifying the Lord. However, often, at least for the demigods and devotees, they have services to perform. And then they want to take shelter at the lotus feet of the Lord to render their services. So here it says the Paramahamsa, I'm going to go back to the purport to help me. The Paramahamsa are compared to a royal swan who makes their nest in the petal of the lotus feet, of the lotus flower. And it said Paramahamsa is a swan. And there is an analogy also that Srila Prabhupada used, is that if you milk water and mixed water and milk, then the swan, one quality of the swan is that the swan is capable of putting a beak in the container with the milk and water and only take out the milk. That's quite amazing because milk and water mix very well. But the swan is capable of doing that. So similarly, pure devotees, when they are in a material world, which is compared to like a mix of, water and milk, the pure devotee can extract the nectar of the milk of the lotus feet of Krishna, of everything that's connected with Krishna. A pure devotee doesn't see any separation. You see everything that's happened, everything that's around in connection with Krishna, is capable to see every living entity as part and parcel of the Lord. Is capable of seeing that not only every living entity is part and parcel of the Lord, but every living entity also is guided by Super Soul. So the pure devotee never lose track of the purpose of creation. He constantly knows that the purpose of creation is benevolent. It's love of the Lord. And so he is always at the lotus feet of the Lord. And by being at the lotus feet of the Lord, in this verse, he said it's equivalent to be in any holy place, because that's the holy of holy. The holy of holy place are the lotus feet of the Lord. So as soon as we take shelter at the lotus feet of the Lord, all our sinful activities are purified. Usually people visit holy places to get free, because those sinful activities, they tend to lead us to act in a way that's godless. So the more sinful activity we still carry, the more we are going to be attracted to act with our senses and object of the senses, and be attacked by envy, greed, anger, lust, all those enemies of our progress in spiritual life. So of course, someone who is serious about spiritual life wants to be cleaner, because the cleaner we are, the easier it is to remember the Lord. And the best way to do that is to practice remembering the Lord. And that's why the process of bhakti is so beautiful, because the process itself and the goal of the process is one. In other process, you have to go progressively. You need to get free of your sinful activity and then atone and all that, and then cleaning whatever you can clean, and then after you go to another stage. But the process, the goal in bhakti is to remember the lotus feet of the Lord. And by doing that, all our sinful activities are cleansed. And of course, the best way to do that in Kali Yoga is to chant the holy name of the Lord by chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. In a nectar of devotion, he said, just by chanting once the name of the Lord, a flock of birds, seen like birds, kind of flow away from us. So just by uttering once the holy name of the Lord, we can clear so much of our karma. Sinful activity create karma that are getting in the way of being in contact with Krishna. And let's say, so the Paramahamsas, they are swan, and the swan says that they like to play with the lotus flower, and in fact they have long necks, and they wrap their long neck around the stem of the lotus flower. So that's the Paramahamsas, that's what they do. They wrap their mind constantly around the stem of the lotus feet of the Lord, and they desire to see their face, the lotus face like of the Lord. When I was living in Pennsylvania, I was living on a farm in Pennsylvania, and there was like a very pure Mataji there. Her name was Mother Malini. She passed away a few years ago. Krishna wanted her to do different services. Anyway, Mother Malini is was a very, very saintly devotee, a widow, and saintly devotee. And then when I was in contact with her, she was constantly singing a verse again and again and again. At that time, just by hearing her, I knew it, but now I forgot about it. But and that verse is from the prayer of Queen Kunti. So I'm going to read it. Nama Pankaja Nabaya, Nama Pankaja Maline, Nama Pankaja Netraya, Namaste Pankajangraye. So Queen Kunti, she's also offering prayer to the Lord. And she said, my respectful obeisance unto you, O Lord, whose abdomen is marked with a depression like a lotus flower, who are always decorated with garlands of lotus flowers. whose glance is as cool as the lotus, and whose feet are engraved with lotuses. So that's Queen Kunti praying, and she too is praying, holding that vision and that comparison with the lotus flower, and it's also in the spiritual world the biggest planet, and the planet that occupies the most space in the spiritual world is also a lotus. It's a lotus called Goloka Vrindavan. Goloka Vrindavan is also a big lotus, and in the center of the world is like what's in the center of the lotus. It's a wrong. Like if you have seen a lotus, it's quite amazing. It looks like plastic almost. Of course, plastic is nothing to be proud about. But anyway, I'm meeting us where we are at. There is Radha and Krishna. Radha and Krishna are in the middle of the lotus flower in the spiritual world. So we can read the purport. I'm curious about the purport, so we are going to read the purport. Here are some of the specific symbolical marks on the spiritual body of the personality of Godhead, which distinguishes body from the body of all others. So the Supreme Personality of Godhead is a person, and that's how at the core of our philosophy is to understand that the personality of Godhead is a person, but not an ordinary person, not a person who carries tons of sinful activity and reaction to sinful activity, not a person who is under the three modes of material nature, not a person that's contaminated and conditioned, a person that's transcendental, and a person who is Aham, he said, Krishna said in Bhagavad Gita, Aham Sarvasya Prabhavo. So a person that is at the core, is at the source of not only the material world, but the spiritual world. Mata Sarvam Pravartate. Everything emanates from him. Everything emanates. And really, the content of the universe, of our universe and every universe, come from the lotus flower born of the navel of Garbhodaka Shri Vishnu. Again, there is another lotus flower. There is one in the spiritual world with Goloka Vrindavan, one that come out of the lotus navel of Garbhodaka Shri Vishnu, where Lord Brahma, the first created being, sits and meditates and receives all the Vedas. And Srila Prabhupada speaks about the Vedas quite a lot, because in the verse, the demigods, they are glorifying the Vedas. The glorifying the Vedas are as the mercy of the Lord. The wings of the Vedas, they are carrying us. And often Srila Prabhupada gets an analogy. Veda means knowledge. That's what, Vedavit, knowledge of me, Vedavit, Heva Chaham, that by the Veda, I am to be known, Krishna said. And Vedais cha sarver aham eva vedyo. Like I am to be known by the Veda, Vedanta Krit, Vedavit, Eva Chaham. And I am the compiler of the Vedanta, and I'm the knower of the Veda. So we can know Krishna by the Veda, and he compiles the Veda, and he knows the Veda. Like recently we were reading, with a group, we were reading Chaitanya Charitamrita, and someone shared like, oh, Lord Chaitanya, he can just quote. Yeah, because he's the compiler of the Veda, and he's the knower of the Veda. And also by the Veda, we can know Lord Chaitanya, and we can know Krishna. So Prabhupada take a nice analogy that I really like, that if we want to know who is our Father, The best authority, of course, in Kali Yoga, in the Western world, now it's becoming a faulty authority, but still it's the best authority. Even so, it may be a faulty authority. The best authority to know who is our father is our mother. Yes, the best authority to know who is our father is our mother. So the Vedas, they are our mother. They are the mother. If we take shelter of the Veda, the mother Veda is going to tell us who is our father, who is, where we are coming from. And the mother Veda is going to fully deliver to us, meeting us where we are at, which is quite amazing, and deliver to us the lotus feet of the Lord. So like the sages carried by the wings of the Veda, it's so beautiful, such a beautiful analogy. Carried by the wing of the Veda, they get to see the lotus feet of the Lord, because that's what they are seeking, that they are searching that. They take shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord, and they are seeking to hold the beautiful lotus feet of the Lord. And how they do that? They are carried by the wings of the Veda. So Srila Prabhupada, he tells us that another way to be cleared of our sinful activity and to be taking shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord is by being in contact with the Bhagavad Gita. As soon as we read Bhagavad Gita, and I have a reading every Monday, a woman's reading group, and for the last maybe 6 months or so, maybe 7 months, I have discovered Meetup. It's a platform on the internet. And from that platform, there is people who come to the Bhagavad Gita reading who are not familiar with the devotees, are not familiar with anything really connected with Krishna. And so some of them come, there is many came out of the 6 months. Sometimes they come once, twice, they leave, they feel triggered by something, I don't see them, I don't have connection with them. However, there's a few that come once and twice and 3 times, and that's all they do. And over the months, I can clearly see how their consciousness, how their way of being, their joy, so many things transform by only reading Bhagavad Gita once a week. That's how powerful Srila Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita is, that by reading Bhagavad Gita 1 hour once a week, transformation happens. And we can go to India and bathe in the Ganges water, because that's also the Lord that is so merciful. We decide to be separated from him. It's like teenagers. They decide to be separated from their parents. You don't know anything. I'm going to do my own life. I'm going to make my own choices. I'm going to, whatever, teenager. They rebel against their mother and father. Even so, their mother and father have a lot of wisdom to give them. And they can give them shelter. They can protect them. They can, so many things they can do. And so we are like that. We are rebellious souls, and we say, we know better. I know better how to enjoy. I know better what will create peace of mind. I know better what will create comfort in my life. I know better about what my destiny should be, whatever, like that. And not seeing that that's faulty. And for parents with teenager, like imagine that the parents with teenagers, they let their teenager do, and they accompany them everywhere, like in a silent way. In a silent way, they give them like constantly things like guidance from within their heart. they make them stumble upon books that are going to completely change their life and like that. So that's God, Krishna. Like, I think like the list is probably inexhaustible of where Krishna is helping us to wake up and come back to our happy consciousness, our knowledge of ourselves as eternal, blissful, cognizant, like soul living entities. And so here there's a few given to us. The lotus feet of the Lord that we can remember, the Vedas that are the mother that are there to guide us to Krishna, and then the Ganges water who emanate from the toes, the big toes of the Lord that we can, drink or bathe in to free ourselves from so much sinful reaction. And not only the Ganges water, in the purport, Srila Prabhupada says, just in India, there is 5 rivers. And he said all over the world. So, I'm wondering what are the other rivers around the world. I was thinking the Jordan River is probably one of them. And maybe there was also the Nile. I know some Muslims, they go in the Nile, isn't it something? And so there's many rivers and many places of pilgrimage. And of course, he gave us the most important of everything Krishna gave us. He gave us pure devotees. He gave us his ambassador. And just by having a moment of association with the pure devotees, we get all the tirtha in one place. All the place of pilgrimage in one place. All the rivers in one place. All the chanting of all the mantra. We get all the austerity, all the sacrifice that we could perform in one moment of association with a pure devotee. So that's another gift that the Lord give us. So give us a Veda for us. Is Srila Prabhupada's books, Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita. We don't want to get lost in the Vedas. We're not going to find ourselves there. Too vast, too much meeting people where they are at, that, if we are lost, then we are not going to find ourselves in all that. He gave us his form. He gave us his pastime. That's the reason he came, to do his pastime on earth. For the devotee to remember those pastime and constantly chant those pastime. He gave us all the holy places of his pastimes. What else does he give us? Any ideas of other things? He gave us the Maha Mantra. That's amazing. He gave us all the hymns of the Vedas. He gave us Prashadam. He gave us Prashadam. He gave us devotional service. So much. I think really the list is probably inexhaustible if we really look in the details of even the creation. He gave us the creation, the cosmic manifestation. He gave us all its rules. He gave us the material laws of nature. He gave us the 3 modes of material nature. He gave us Maya. All that is his benevolence. Everything is benevolence of the Lord. All that to bring us back. There is a comment, so maybe someone said something. The deities, he gave us his form as Archa Vigraha, Anandini is sharing. He gave us his form as for us to be able to do service for him. Dress him, bathe him, cook for him, offer incense, offer flower, so many things, so many ways. The Lord show his mercy to us. And that's what the process of Bhakti Yoga is. The process of Bhakti Yoga, who can lead us to relish the lotus feet of the Lord, to relish his lotus face too, at one point or another. So let's continue reading that purport. They are all species feature of his body of the Lord, all special features. So all those symbolic mark on the spiritual body of the personage of Godhead, they are all special features of the body of the Lord. The Lord may appear as one of us, but he is always distinct by his specific bodily features. Srimati Kunti claims herself unfit to see the Lord because of her being a woman. So the Pankajanabi Lord accepts the Archa Vigraha. So there is, speak about something else. Okay. So we can worship into his Archa Vigraha. Because such a fallen soul can see everything beyond matter, the Lord condescends to enter in each and every one of the innumerable universe as a Garbhodakashayi Vishnu. So the universe, the cosmic manifestation, is also his mercy. Who grows a lotus stem from the lotus-like depression of the center of his transcendental abdomen, and thus Brahma, the first living being in the universe, is born. Therefore, the Lord is known as Pankajanabi. The Pankajanabi Lord accepts the Archa Vigraha, his transcendental form, in different elements, namely a form within the mind. So we can form the Lord within our mind, and sometimes the Lord comes with his mercy, with his mind, within our mind. A form made of wood, deity, like Neem deities. So beautiful Neem deities. In Bengal, many deities are made of Neem. They are very beautiful. A lot of garnet-eyed deities. Of course, Lord Jagannath is made of wood. Form made of paint. All those paintings, Srila Prabhupada, they are window to the spiritual world. All the painting, like we decorate our house with painting of the pastime of the Lord, then we're in a spiritual world. Every time our eye stop in any of those paintings, we are purifying our heart. This morning we were reading, that's quite amazing. Before chanting japa, Srila Prabhupada was saying, put a picture of the Panchatattva. And just by looking at that picture of the Panchatattva, you get purified. Even if you don't know who they are. If you never heard of the Panchatattva, if you have a picture of the Panchatattva in your house, like you're going back to Godhead. It was just saying that's simple. That's simple. I have a friend, she really wants to go back to Godhead. Really sure I speak about going back to Godhead. And she look at all the simple things that she can do. Like Prabhupada said, Prabhupada said, if you put a few drops of radical water on your head. So every single day she does that. She said, well, I'm doing what's easy. Like if we bow down before the Lord, okay, that's easy, I can do that. Looking at the picture of Lord Chaitanya, Lord Nityananda, sometimes our tendency is to work hard for something and really go for the hard thing. But there is so many easy things we can very easily do, and that's simple, that are so potent, so potent. So the form is made of paint, a form drawn on sands. So if we draw Krishna on the sand, Lord Chaitanya, Lord Jagannath, kids do that sometimes. They go on the beach and they make a form of Lord Jagannath on the sand, etc. All such a form of the Lord are always decorated with garland of lotus flower. And there should be a soothing atmosphere in a temple of worship to attract the burning attention of the non-devotees always engaged in material wranglings. The meditators worship a form within the mind. Therefore, the Lord is merciful even to the woman, Shudra and Dvija Bandhu, provided they agree to visit the temple of worship in different form made for them. when we visit the deity, all the great Acharya established such a temple of worship in all parts, or in all places, just to favor the less intelligent, and one should not pose himself as transcending the stage of temple worship when one is actually in the category of Shudra, or the woman, or less. So most people are less than women, don't worry. It's nothing, there's no sectarianism here about women. In fact, to be a woman will be a really, really progress in this world. But I haven't seen one yet. Yeah, I haven't seen one yet, according to the description of what a woman is like. So, or less, that's what we can identify with, or less. We are mlecha, and that's less. One should begin to see the Lord from his lotus feet. So when we go to the temple, it's very purifying, our home temple. Like, here we have a home temple with Lord Shringadev and Radha Krishna and the Panchatattva, Srila Prabhupada, all the Acharya. So we can do that, we can practice. We can all decide, like, for 1 week, I'm going to practice starting with the lotus feet, just looking at the lotus feet of the Lord. Yeah, I do that. And I found that by doing that, somehow he ground within me the Lord. Looking at the lotus feet of the Lord, looking at the lotus feet of the Acharya, it has a grounding effect of the Lord within me. I don't know, I imagine that's what the Lord is seeking to do for us. Gradually rising to the thighs and waist, chest, and face. One should not try to look at the face of the Lord without being accustomed to seeing the lotus feet of the Lord. Srimati Kunti, because of her being the aunt of the Lord, did not begin to see the Lord from the lotus feet because the Lord might feel ashamed. And then Kunti Devi, just to solve a painful situation for the Lord, began to see the Lord just above his lotus feet, i.e., from the waist of the Lord, gradually rising to the face and then down to the feet. In the round, everything there is in order. Because Kunti is the aunt, so she's a superior to Krishna. So she doesn't want to embarrass Krishna by looking at his lotus feet. Awesome. Beautiful purport here. And what else? I'm going to stop here. I feel complete. Bahunam Janmanamante, Gyanavam Mam Prapadyante, Vasudevi Savam Iti, Sam Mahatma Sudurlabha. So after taking many births, Bahunam Janmanam Ante, Gyanavam, one with knowledge, Gyanavam Mam Prapadyante, surrender, Prapadyante, surrender unto me. And Vasudevi Sarvam Eti, making Vasudeva everything, Sarvam everything, Sarva me, Sahamat, Sam Mahatma Sudurlabha. Such a Mahatma, such a great soul is very, very rare. Very rare. We have gone through so many births, and it's such a blessing that in these many births we have received the mercy of Srila Prabhupada. And by receiving the mercy of Srila Prabhupada, we get in contact with inconceivable knowledge. Yesterday we had our Krishna book reading. we had fun because, we had fun in Krishna book reading. And those stories are so purifying. Even, like it was really a far out pastime, very, very far out pastime. I will tell you the pastime. And it was when Lord Krishna's first queen is Rukmini. And so we read about Lord Krishna kidnapping Rukmini and whatever happened with Rukmini. And then after that, Rukmini, she got pregnant. That's natural, they get married, they get pregnant. And then within not even 10 days of the birth of her son, Pradyumna, he got kidnapped. He got kidnapped by his demon Shambhara. And the Shambhara demons, he took the little baby and threw the baby into the ocean. And a big fish swallowed that baby. The baby was swallowed by the big fish. Already, you know, most of us, we may feel like, what's that story, you know? But it doesn't matter. We were speaking about fairy tale yesterday. And after a while, I was thinking, yes, but reading a fairy tale doesn't give me the experience that I get when I read Krishna book. You know, fairy tales are nice, but they don't have the purifying, ecstatic experience that we get just by hearing about Krishna. Why? Because Krishna made it that way. Krishna made it that he's such a personality that he made it that if we speak about him, hear about him, even if we disagree, don't understand, or think it's like just far out fairy tale, we get purified and we get to feel that purification and ecstasy. So the Shambhara demons took the baby and threw it in the water, and it was swallowed by a big fish. And the big fish was caught by the fisherman. And the fisherman sold the big fish to the kitchen of the Shambhara demons. That's already very far out. The Shambhara demons killed Pradyumna because he was informed to a curse that this Pradyumna, because, you know, in this previous life, anyway, it's a long story. In the previous life, Pradyumna was Cupid, that he will be killed. When Cupid come back, he's going to kill him. So the Shambhara demon got news that Pradyumna, the baby, was the person who's going to kill him. And when, you know, Mari Krishna Rakeke, Rake Krishna Marike, when Krishna want to kill you, no one can save you. And if Krishna want to save you, no one can kill you. So no, Shambhara demons, he had a good plan. I'm going to kill that baby. But if he's supposed to die in the hand of someone, and if something is supposed to happen to us, it will. You know, at one point it was like bumper sticker. It was like if something bad is going to happen, it will, or something, or if something good is going to happen, it will. Do you remember what those bumper stickers were saying? Something like that. I was seeing that in bumper sticker. So yes, that's wise. There is depth there. So anyway, the Shambhara demon kitchen, in the Shambhara demon kitchen, the head cook said, wow, what a great fish. And he started to open the belly of the fish, you know, like when you eat fish, like Prabhupada said, demons eat fish. Demons eat fish and meat a lot, Rakshasas. So he opened the belly and he found a baby. And the baby was alive. And the baby was just fresh and beautiful little baby. And so he calls the servant in the kitchen, Mayavati. And he said, Mayavati, look what I found. I found a baby in the belly of a fish. And the Mayavati, she felt so much affection for that baby. And she decided, I'm going to nurse that baby. So she became the mother nurse of the baby. And somehow the baby grew up very fast, and he grew up into a very beautiful young man. He grew up in a beautiful young man. So I'm sharing this story because it's very purifying to hear about Krishna. And because at the end of our reading, then of course the young man is beautiful. And in fact, Mayavati was Cupid's wife in the previous life. And so at one point she moved from having motherly feeling towards conjugal feeling towards Pradyumna, and of course they got married. And then Pradyumna, he got empowered by his wife. He got empowered by his wife. Hear that? He got empowered by his wife. I repeat it 3 times to emphasize. And in that empowerment, he was able to kill the Shambhara demons. And then after, they went back home to see Krishna. Anyway, I'm sharing that because at the end of reading the story and feeling, You know, I hope everyone feels that. Well, we heard about Krishna's baby. And at the end of hearing that story, we were discussing how fortunate, how amazing, how inconceivable it is that we have access to this knowledge. We have access to those stories. We have access to God, Krishna, giving himself to us. He revealed himself. Recently, I had a coaching session with a couple, and the woman, they are supposed to get married, but the woman, she had doubt about getting married. And the reason she had doubt is that she felt like in so many ways that relationship is really satisfying, but she also felt that our to-be husband was not opening up. He's not opening up. He's not opening up, she was saying. He's not opening up. And he was really like in a place like, I don't know what that means. He had no idea. But for her, it was really a big deal. And for him, it was, I want to give it to her. He was so sincere and beautiful. It was so nice seeing him. He said, I want to give it to her, but I have no idea what she's speaking about. And Krishna is opening himself to us so much as we want to hear and know Krishna. He has no limitation how much he opened himself to us. And he does that in all those many ways, through the chanting of his name, to hearing about his pastime, to hearing about his qualities, like Queen Kunti, that describe all his quality in terms of lotus flower and name form. This morning we were hearing that. So the name lead us to the form, lead us to guna, qualities, and lead us to pastime and associates. So that's how it works. And then when we understand the associate of the Lord, then we want to serve them. We want to serve them and focus like, oh, I want to serve the Lord like Mother Yashoda is serving the Lord. Or I want to serve the Lord like Subal is serving the Lord. I want to serve the Lord like what is named Daruka is serving the Lord. So we develop affection for the eternal associate of the Lord and their service. Their service, like, yeah, I want to boil the milk for Mother Yashoda. My Mother Yashoda, usually she has maid servant who boils the milk. Only when she has special milk, only for Krishna, then she does it herself. Anyhow, I thank you for listening. Thank you for your attention. I'm going to read the verse again. Margantiyate muko padma nidais chanda supaine rishayo vivikte yashya gamarshoda sarid varaya padam tirtha pada papana. The lotus feet of the Lord are by themselves the shelter of all places of pilgrimage. The great clear-minded sages, carried by the wings of the Vedas, always search after the nest of your lotus-like face. Some of them surrender to your lotus feet at every step by taking shelter of the best of rivers, the Ganges, which can deliver one from all sinful reactions. Hare Krishna. Thank you for listening. Any comment, question about Krishna, about devotional service, realization, experience? Hare Krishna, dear Govinda Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. I should have experience related to experience and realization related to one of the analogies you used. And so that Prabhupada uses a lot, that you want to know who's the father, you ask the mother. Okay. And you said like, So I had some experience, I guess, called the Yuga. So back 30 years ago, 1993, I began my employment with the state, and my first job was determining eligibility for different benefit programs, food stamps, welfare, Medicaid. And I was in Putnam County for a short time, just referencing Ron Pro and doing there. In Putnam County for a short time, then Dixie County. So I remember one of my first clients, and like, we had a series of questions to ask. One of my first clients was a woman, and she had a child, so she was applying for benefits. So naturally we asked, okay, who's the father? And so sometimes they're very eager to say who the father is, but she said, well, I don't know. And so, but it was my job to inquire further. It was 2 or 3 possibilities. That was my job, to ask these unpleasant questions. So she said, in this particular case, she said, I was at a party in Georgia. Okay, now maybe she really didn't know who the father was or not. All right. So this was in 1993. It was one of my first clients, and I'd already been reading Proverbs books for more than a decade, so I was familiar with that analogy. So I thought about it afterwards. I thought, okay, so in this situation, in this age, that analogy doesn't really apply anymore. But then I thought more. I said it does apply, just not the exact form, but the essence of the analogy applies, because we get beyond mother or father. The principle of the analogy, because I'm back there in 1993, I thought about it. The principle of the analogy is about authority. It's about authority. And that by just, the idea is like, okay, you could go test the 3.5 billion men on the planet. Like, that's not going to work. As nice, you need to ask an authority. So even if someone says, well, look, sometimes the mother these days will lie, or the mother really doesn't know. And even in the Vedic age, Prabhupada gives examples of that, right? There's a story of someone, and he approached, he wanted to become a Brahmin, and then, but well, are you from a Brahmin family? Who's your father? And the boy didn't know. Mm-hmm. But the boy went home to ask his mother, and the mother was honest, said, I don't know who your father is, because that was the mother's profession. Yeah. And so the boy went back and said, oh, I don't know who my father is. My mother doesn't know. So then the guru said, you're a real Brahmin, because that's the first quality, truthfulness. So you're a real Brahmin. So that was an aside. But so in my Dixie County, Putnam County story, I was at a party in Georgia. So I thought about the real principle of the metaphor, the analogy is authority. Because even if it says nowadays, in many cases, the better authority is, let's say, a DNA test. Okay, find out who was at the party in Georgia and do DNA tests. Okay, but it's the same principle. It was like, I trust the authority of the laboratory scientists who are doing the DNA, and then I find out it's the same principle. And so the idea is we're going to accept authority to attempt to understand things, especially things that are beyond the purview of our material mind and senses. Of course, our material mind and senses are also faulty. So even for those things that we think are under the purview of our material mind and senses, we're going to accept that. Maybe our authority in this is the newscaster, what we saw on the internet, what we learned in 2nd grade, like that. But we're going to accept authority. That doesn't preclude logic. So like through logic, we can understand that there's a supreme intelligence, and even that supreme intelligence is personal, but that the supreme intelligence has a wife named Rukmini and a son named Prabhujuni, that the supreme person is inspired to play the flute in a place called Goloka Vrindavan. For that we need authority to get, for that we need authority to reveal to us. And just like going here and there and trying to figure out who's the supreme personality of Godhead, that won't get us anywhere. So just want to share that personal experience from my job back 30 years ago.
Thank you. Even if the mother doesn't know, still she's probably the best authority. Because even the DNA tests, they can be faulty.
They're
She's still potentially the best authority.
Yeah.
Yeah, she may not know, but that doesn't make her not the supreme authority.
Yeah.
She just doesn't know.
Everyone's accepting authority.
Yeah.
So
that's the point.
That's the point.
And then the authority of the Vedas is the authority that we can rise on those wings.
Yeah.
To land at the lotus feet of Sri Krishna.
Yeah.
Thank you. Any other comment, question?
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah, I was enjoying reading with you yesterday. And, you know, the other part of the story that was fascinating is that Rukmini recognized her son after so many years of not knowing what happened, thinking that he was dead. And like Krishna was silent on what the matter was all about. And so I just found that fascinating too. It's like, you know, knowing that a mother knows, right, that oh, there's something about this person, and I feel this connection, is this motherly connection, and then she found, you know, all the family members were satisfied knowing that the long lost son was back. So it was like a beautiful ending, and so wonderful. And so yeah, so I was so intrigued by the entire story. I was very captivated. And yeah, I really enjoyed reading, and I hadn't read with you in such a long time, so that was a beautiful way to spend a Friday afternoon. So thank you for that service.
Thank you for sharing. And that's it, like you felt emotion with the emotion of Rukmini, with the goddess of fortune, and through your emotion for her emotion, then your heart is getting purified, and you're coming closer to Krishna. You know, that's the goal of our human life, is to feel emotion, spiritual emotion, to be in contact with those emotions, with those devotees who experience those emotions, and to be moved by those emotions. And you were moved by Rukmini Devi's emotion of recognizing her son after many years, and feeling the affection towards her son, and finally being united.
Yeah,
that's a hard word for me to say. And with our lost child. Yeah, nice, very, very moving. That's where we want, you know, like that's the kind of drama we want to be moved by. All the drama in Krishna book, which is very dramatic. There is everything. There is chivalry, there is war and kidnapping a woman, kidnapping of, you know, there is so much. Everything is there in Krishna book, really. If we like adventure, there is adventure. If we like drama, there is drama. If we like romance, the romance is there. Every aspect of what we are craving to hear about is in the Lord's pastime. However, you know, when I'm moved to tears because of a sad story, my heart doesn't get purified. But if I move to tears because Rukmini losing Pradyumna, then in that emotion, I make so much advancement towards the Lord. And yeah, everything is in Krishna book, and I encourage you, everybody to come to Krishna book reading. We are starting to hear about all the wives of Krishna and how he married them. I imagine everybody wants to know about that.
And I just want to also express my appreciation for your meetup you're sharing that some are triggered and don't return, and some do return, and you can see the transformation after a couple of readings. So that's really inspiring. So thank you for that as well.
Yeah, thank you for noticing that. Yesterday, I had my first one-on-one meeting with one of the young women who is coming now. She's maybe coming for 2 months or something like that for the reading. And so yesterday I met her and she chanted her first round of japa. And then our sharing was so deep of her experience. And then after, because she's, her profession is to be a vegan cook, she worked with a doctor and then she teach people how to become vegan. And she cooks, you know, it's all around veganism, whatever she does. And she has her own business. And so she wanted to learn how to offer, because in one of the Bhagavad Gita class, I spoke about offering and I knew she was a cook. So I said, well, yeah, and if you offer everything you cook, then you help everybody who is going to eat what you cook to be purified. And so we went over how to make offering. It was really, really beautiful to see that how people come and then get so purified by the reading of the Bhagavad Gita that they're eager for more. They're eager for more, like chanting and offering and all that. Thank you for sharing, and I'll see you for Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
And you know what I know is that even people who are triggered, the effect of that reading that they attended, because most of them don't live in the middle. They come and stay and maybe I interact with them. The effect of reading one word in Srila Prabhupada's books is inconceivable to our little brain. So what about the effect of reading for an hour with other devotees? So even if people feel triggered and leave, the purification, their life is over in a sense. Their material life is already over. Hare Krishna. Anything else? Any other sharing, question, realization? Anantini Prabhu, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, thank you. Yeah, I'm feeling very inspired by, and I have many like thoughts on what you shared about, for example, the poetic. Devotees are naturally poetic. And this morning I was finishing reading chapter 25 in Chaitanya Charitamrita, and Krishna Das Kaviraj Goswami. Is Kaviraj a poet? Is that the name? Or the Kavi?
Kaviraj, yeah.
Yeah, like I was thinking, wow, he's so poetic in describing Lord Chaitanya and Krishna, and there's one verse, and I could read it if you want.
Yeah, it's very purifying for all of us.
Yeah, and he also uses the lotus flower to describe devotional service. So it's right at the end. He says, devotional service to Krishna is exactly like a pleasing, jubilant forest of lotus flowers, wherein there is ample honey. I request everyone to taste this honey. If all the mental speculators bring the bees of their minds into this forest of lotus flowers and jubilantly enjoy ecstatic love of Krishna day and night, their mental speculation will be completely, transcendentally satisfied.
So beautiful.
Yeah, and I was thinking, and as you were speaking, how powerful like images are. Just to use, I mean, I couldn't explain why the lotus flower is so important and so special. Yet it has an effect on my consciousness, and it's an image that stays with me. And recently, a week ago, I was teaching a communication workshop to teachers, and I shared many of these like images that Srila Prabhupada gives us, like the one in front of the zeros. And I spoke about the diamond philosophy. I don't think that's from Srila Prabhupada, but you know, like it's an image, and I painted images to show what I was speaking about them. And I got some feedback yesterday that like the main thing that one teacher said, the main thing that stayed with me is these images, the images that you gave. So yeah, it's very, very powerful. And then you spoke about the rivers. And yeah, I'm also curious, who or where are these other rivers? Mm-hmm. My senses or my experience of rivers here in Switzerland, each river has like a different character and it's a different experience to bathe in them. Like a river in the mountains, which is cold and pure, it's different than a slow flowing river. So yeah, I was curious about that.
Yeah, there's a place in the Bhagavatam where I explained that going in a river, it's purified the blood and all strengthen the nervous system. So rivers are powerful. If they are special, sacred river, maybe when I hear like the Ganges is a most sacred, and then there's 5, the Sarasvati and Narmadi and like other river in India, and then other river in the world. Maybe it's a gradation that maybe all rivers have something sacred about them because it's water and they're all emanate from like the ocean, and like it's all coming from Krishna. and like that all river to just like when we swim around here in a Swanee River or Ichatatni River or any of the spring, they feel so purifying. Yeah.
Rivers are the veins of the universal form.
Oh, nice. Dear Govinda Prabhu said rivers are the vein of the universal form when Krishna describes the universal form. So
that's why they purify the blood.
That's why they purify the blood. Thank you, Rukmini Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Anything else? Thank you all for listening. Entourage Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Go Premanande Hari Hari Bol.
Haribo!
Hare Krishna Prabhupada Prabhu.